If you're calling long distance for Bob Trumpy and Sports Talk, please take note of our toll-free numbers. In Ohio, call 1-800-582-1701. 1-800-582-1701. If you're calling out of state, call 1-800-543-0471. That's 1-800-543-0471.
And if you're calling locally on Sports Talk for Forrest Gregg until 7 o'clock with us, 749-3420 is the number to call, as always. At about 8 o'clock this evening, we'll talk to Tim Sullivan of the Cincinnati Enquirer and Michael Graham of the Cincinnati Post. They have been up to training camp with the Bengals and have been down there every day. And they may offer us a little more insight into the Bengals and the upcoming season than a lot of other people can. So we're going to kind of hash out the Bengals 8 o'clock. With this presently, the head coach of the Bengals, Forrest Gregg. Forrest, I know the number of years that you've coached and the number of years that you played, but do you still get butterflies? I mean, you're 2 days from the season opener 1980, your return engagement to the NFL. You got butterflies yet?
They started today.
Did they really?
They really did. It never changes, especially for that opening game. It's always the same thing. And I noticed the players are basically the same way. And we had our usual Friday practice, which is cut down in time and not as much intense work today. And I noticed that after practice was over, we had a lot of guys coming around asking for film, and they're studying Tampa Bay Buccaneers pretty hard.
Yeah, getting in that overdrive. I understand that on Fridays now you're going to work out at Riverfront Stadium when it's possible?
Whenever possible, we're going to, because Fridays we work on our goal line and short yardage and our 2 minutes. And then what we do is we more or less polish up on everything that we've done during the week, and things that we need to take another look at, we'll look at. And it really helps us to get in the stadium when we can, because you get the right perspective, especially when you're working your goal line and short yardage in your 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Has it been a good week of practice?
Yes, it has. I think we've had an excellent week of practice. I thought Wednesday's practice was the poorest practice that we had. I thought Thursday's practice was good, and today's practice was good.
Yeah, you guys, the management and the coaching staff of the Bengals, introduced all the players to the fans today over at Stouffer's. Your comment about Anthony Munoz, the only guy that's ever passed out from not eating, I would imagine that it was a real scare to you guys, that something might be seriously wrong with him.
Well, you know, if any ball player that passes out like he did, it frightens you, because you don't know what is wrong with him. And it was pretty warm that day, and I found out that he didn't eat breakfast, and nor did he eat lunch. And I think
trying to make a way in, or
no, he really wasn't, because his weight's been down. I think that I talked to his wife, and she told me, I called her that night when I got home, and she told me that he left without breakfast. He usually didn't eat breakfast, and he forgot to take any lunch. So Dee Dee said that she was going to make sure that he carried that little brown bag with him.
Well, I would imagine for a first-round draft choice, he could certainly scrape 2 quarters together and go buy lunch somewhere. What's wrong with that?
Well, you know, it's time element there, and maybe he didn't figure it out.
Did he break anything when he fell? I mean, he's fallen from a long way with an awful lot. I wonder if
he just cracked the ground a little bit where he hit it.
This is the first team. I may be mistaken, but did Toronto have AstroTurf?
Yes. Yes.
Is there any difference in coaching, to your way of thinking, a team that plays on AstroTurf as opposed to one that doesn't?
Well, it depends on what your practice facility is like. In Toronto, we had both. When we worked out in the stadium, of course, we were on the AstroTurf. When we worked out on our practice field, that was natural grass. But I noticed one thing today, and I'm real glad that we got on the AstroTurf today, because we'd been working on the grass all week long. And I noticed the players stumbling a little bit when they first get on the AstroTurf, but it doesn't take them long to get the feel of it. And we'll work there today and work there again tomorrow, and then the pregame warm-up will give us plenty of opportunity on the turf.
Yeah. You mentioned that you've been working on grass all week. Do you not like AstroTurf? Would you prefer your team to practice on grass rather than the turf?
Well, I think when it's hot, like it has been the last few days, and you can we have AstroTurf field out at Spinney, But when you walk on that field and then you go over and walk on the natural grass, you can feel a difference in the heat.
In the heat.
The AstroTurf radiates more heat. And I think the players really prefer to work on the natural grass when they can.
Yeah. Did you ever play on AstroTurf?
Yeah, I played. They had AstroTurf way back then.
It wasn't way back then, but the first place was Houston, was it not? That you played on AstroTurf?
No, the first place I played on AstroTurf, I think, was in, I believe it was in Pittsburgh, when I was still with Green Bay, and we played them over there in 1970, and that was my first experience on AstroTurf.
Yeah.
And then later we played in Dallas, and then the year I played in Dallas, of course, they had in the Cotton Bowl down there was AstroTurf, and in the Texas Stadium, which was the first year that they had that, they had tartan turf.
As a player, I distinctly remember the feeling of going from grass to AstroTurf, how for some, I suppose it's purely psychological, but I always felt faster on AstroTurf. The surface was more constant under my feet, and there wasn't any discoloration and no dirt, no sand, and no potholes and everything. I always felt faster on AstroTurf.
Maybe you were, Bob.
Didn't help much, but I might have been going downhill. Forrest Gregg, our guest on Sports Talk here. We want to take a lot of calls because we're just 2 days from the opening game of the 1980 season. The 45-man roster is set. Jack Thompson, the starting quarterback. I'm not sure you read the papers. Probably a good idea.
Yes, I do.
Do you? Okay, there was a poll in the paper this morning conducted by the Cincinnati Enquirer where it appears that most people in Cincinnati are very happy that Jack Thompson is starting at quarterback. Question for you. If Jack Thompson, if Ken Anderson had not gotten hurt last Saturday night, would he have started the game on Sunday?
Yes, he would have.
So it's just simply by injury.
It's by injury, but that's why Jack Thompson is there, and that's why he is always prepared to play. And as I said today when I introduced the players down there, that it's very comforting to have two quarterbacks like Ken Anderson and Jack Thompson, because you just don't get through a season without that quarterback having some type of difficulty. And listen, we feel good about having Jack Thompson being our starting quarterback in this opening game.
Mm-hmm. I don't blame you. He's done an excellent job, and he does bring that youthful
and
enthusiasm.
as I said many times, the only thing here is going with experience over youth, and that is the reason that we would have started out with Kenny Anderson.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to the phones here. We're not going to keep you for very long, so we want to get as many of them as we possibly can. All right, we start with line one. Thank you for waiting. You're on Sports Talk with Forrest Gregg. Are you there? Oh. Yeah, go right ahead.
Mr. Gregg?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask you, are we going to be singing the Canadian national anthem with our other anthem this year?
You know, that's a peculiar thing that you would ask that, because
I can't hear you, sir.
I said that's peculiar that you would ask that, because we do have 3 ball players on our team that played for me in Toronto last year. However, I spent about 8 months up there total, and I've spent better than 40 years here. I won't say how many more, but better than 40 years here. So I know our national anthem pretty well, and I never did learn the words to "O Canada." But it is a very pretty song.
What I was talking about. Now, how long were those players, sir, in the Canadian League?
M.L. Harris, the tight end, was up there for 4 years.
Yes, sir.
Ian Sunner, the kicker, has played. He's 27 now, and he's played there since he was 19.
Yes, sir.
It was his first year. And Rick Rosano was there for 2 years.
Yes, sir. Why didn't some other NFL team here in the States pick them? If they were good enough to make the Bengals, I would like to ask you that, sir.
Well, you know that a lot of the teams in the States do pick up ball players there. There are several that were played in the league last year. Bob, what was that safety's name from that's down at Houston that I think made All-Pro that played up in Canada?
Oh, yeah,
I can't recall his name right now. But
Okay.
anyway, what your question is, why are those guys here? And you think they're here because I like them. Well, I like them because they're good football players, and I happen to know them. I had first-hand information about them. Other people didn't have first-hand information about them.
Well, you should have, sir. You coached them, and they played for you. That's on their benefit.
That's a tremendous advantage for Forrest. He can come up with players that other teams don't know about.
Oh, you know, another guy.
Wait. Go ahead.
Another guy we had here was Zach Henderson, and we played against him up there, and we let him go only because we didn't have room, not because he wasn't good enough to make a team, and he caught on with Philadelphia.
Listen, I got to move on. We got a lot of phone calls. Thank you for calling.
What about the kicker?
Bye-bye. Where else do we go from there? Okay, thank you for waiting. You're on Sports Talk with Forrest Gregg.
Hi, I'm Scott from Beaver Creek.
Hi, Scott. Beaver Creek, Pennsylvania?
I'd like to ask Forrest Gregg about the Bengals at safety.
Yes, you're referring to the strong safety or the free safety?
Both.
Both? Well,
Yeah.
our strong safety will be Greg Bright, the rookie from Morehead State.
How do we look at that position?
I think we look pretty strong. We have Dick Duran is the free safety. Greg Bright is the strong safety. Brian Hicks can play strong safety or free safety. Plus, Ray Griffin can play free safety.
Do you think that Ken Anderson will be able to play pretty soon?
I think Ken can play this Sunday if we had to have him. He's worked out the past 2 days, and today he was moving very, very well. He started tested it yesterday, and I think that we could tape him up, and I think if he had to play Sunday that he could.
Would you rather put Turk Schonert in there in replacement of Jack Thompson, not to chance an injury to Ken Anderson?
Well, you know, it would depend on the circumstances in the football game and what we needed to do. If something were to happen to Jack, then we would hate to risk Kenny getting re-injured. At the same time, if the ball game was tight and something happened to Jack, then you can bet your bottom dollar that Ken Anderson will be in there playing.
Okay. Thanks for your phone call. We must move on.
Okay.
On the quarterback situation, I much admired your decision against Detroit last weekend when Kenny went down and Thompson was moving the ball club to take him out, protect him, make sure, forsake the win, hope for the win, do the best you possibly could, but protect that starting quarterback and give Schonert a little playing time with only, 2 or 3 days experience. And
Yes.
I would imagine that he was searching for what was going on, but he did an excellent job.
Yes, he did. You know, the thing that happened to Kenny, and we played Jack the rest of that quarter, and then I didn't think we played well at all. I thought we were very tentative at first half offensively. I knew we had the ball when we went back out the second half, and we discussed a few things at halftime, and I wanted to see how our ball club would respond to it. Jack went in there and he took them directly down the field for a touchdown, put us ahead, and that was enough. I saw what I wanted to see, and I felt like that it would be foolish to risk Jack Anderson any longer. Jack Anderson.
He's a writer. Jack Thompson.
Jack Thompson. That's our quarterback. That's the second mistake I made today. I called our offensive line coach
McAnally.
I
caught that, but nobody else did. This is you and me.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, he did. That's 3. Yeah, you're right. All right. To line 8, you say, thank you for waiting. You're on Sports Talk with Forrest Gregg.
Yes, first of all, Forrest, I'd like to congratulate you on your coaching job,
Thank you.
even though this is still a country down here. And
Wait a minute. Where are you calling from, pal?
Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania.
Isn't that the birthplace
Beaver
of Joe
Falls,
Namath?
That's Joe Namath's hometown.
Yeah, sure is.
First of all, I'd like to know if it was really a drastic change to go up to the CFL and coach.
It was quite a change. There's a lot of differences in the ball games. The size of the field just being one thing, and a very small squad. You play with 33 ball players up there, and you only have 3 downs to make your first down. In other words, you're starting out 2nd and 10, and I like to run the football, and we didn't have much opportunity. You was always throwing to try to get that first down.
Yeah, and when you were coaching up Toronto, did you have John Huffnagel?
No, we didn't. We didn't have him. I think he was out west somewhere, if I'm not mistaken, in one of the Western Conference teams.
I thought he played for the Alouettes.
Alouettes? Montreal.
Montreal Alouettes.
Yeah,
That's not out west, so I don't think
no,
so.
I don't really know who Huffnagel played for. I remember him though.
Yeah. Thanks for your phone call, Beaver Falls. Say hello to Joe Namath for us, will you?
Bye.
All right, bye. Calls from everywhere. Thank you for waiting. You're on Sports Talk with Forrest Gregg of the Bengals.
Yeah, Forrest Gregg.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I'd like to say I like your style of coaching, but I do have a few questions for you. Exactly why were Chris Barr and Marvin Cobb released?
Why were Chris Barr and Marvin Cobb
they
released?
were
Which
favorites
one
of
do you
mine.
want? They were favorites of yours. You know, they had a lot of favorites. A lot of people liked them around this town, and I don't blame them. I think both of them are good football players. We made the decision with Vidiella over Chris Barr based on what we thought that Vidiella could do potentially. We had an opportunity here to pick up another kicker that I knew something about, so we took him. As far as Marvin Cobb was concerned, I think that the overriding factor here was the fact that Brian Hicks, we felt like can play 3 positions. He can play weak safety, strong safety, or corner. Plus, we felt like that Greg Bright would be our starter. So what we need to do is we need to have another guy who's very versatile to back up there in the secondary.
Okay, do you see the linebacking core that we have? Do you see that as a weakness in the 34 defense?
Not at all. Not at all. I think that we're very, very solid inside with Cameron and LeClaire. Outside with Reggie Williams and Bo Harris. Then our 2 young inside linebackers, Rick Rosano and Simpkins, played excellent football during the preseason. Now on the outside we have Tom Dinkle, who's the #1 backup, and he's also a great special teams player. And then Andrew Mellentree, who's a young linebacker with a lot of potential. And what we need to do is we need to develop that potential. So I don't think our linebacking situation is in bad shape at all right now, provided we can stay healthy until Mellentree has time to learn and Dinkle gets more experience.
On the linebackers, you have only been in town about 8 or 9 months, but the choice to cut Kirby Criswell was one that I think a lot of people agreed with, but never really thought that the Bengals would do it because they seem to hang on to those high draft choices for a long time and really give them an awful lot of time to develop, and some of them don't, and they've kept some for several years, and they haven't really worked out. Was that a tough decision for you?
Well, you know, the thing about Kirby Criswell was we had 2 people in that same position. We had Andrew Mellentree and Kirby Criswell. We can't possibly develop 2 guys. And so we just took our pick here, and we decided that Mellentree was further along right now, and that he was the guy who had outstanding potential. And Kirby just never really did what we thought he would do once he got here. And I'm not saying that he may become an all-pro linebacker. I don't know, given the opportunity and the time to play. But we just felt like, from our standpoint, that we had to make the choice, and our choice was Mellentree.
Was the choice, did it have something to do with overall speed? Mellentree appears to be a lot faster person in his Criswell.
Yeah, Mellentree is faster. He's also a little niftier and probably has a little better balance overall.
Is Mellentree going to be the designated blitzer? I noticed in the preseason several times when he came in, he did other things, but what he did primarily was try to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, I think the reason that you saw that was because he's one of those guys. That is one of his biggest assets, is being able to blitz. And we didn't put him in specifically to blitz, but you noticed him a little bit more because he put more pressure than anybody else on the quarterback.
Yeah, that's a tough guy for any running back to pick up, too.
Absolutely. He has moves along with his quickness and his strength.
Okay, thanks for your phone call. We must move on. We got a couple of lines open, so if you hurry, you can get in. That's locally with Forrest Gregg. Until then, thank you for waiting. You're on Sports Talk with the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yes, Bob?
Yes.
My name is John. I'm calling from Ashland, Kentucky, and I got a question for Forrest Gregg.
Good. That's why I have him here, you see.
Okay, Forrest?
Yes, sir.
I got a question here. I'm very upset, and maybe you can answer it, and a lot of people, I've listened to Bob's show. How come you cut Billy Brooks?
How come we cut Billy Brooks?
Yeah, that's the question I'd like to know. I'm very upset because he's a favorite of mine.
Well, I think
That's 3 favorites in the last 2 phone calls.
Boy, I've cut everybody's favorite. I'm sorry about that, but I think the reason that Billy Brooks was let go was because of his the injury that occurred to him during the off season.
If I may add something to that, was that a coach's decision to release Billy Brooks, or was it primarily made by management, or both?
I think that every decision that's made on this football team cannot be made by just one area. I think that all the decisions are really made by both. What we do is we make recommendations, and whatever we decide to do as a group, we do.
Okay, it's answered.
Well, sir, did answering this one? Was it because of his knee? Was he hurt before the preseason?
Yes.
He was hurt.
Yes.
And he, what I'm saying here, that Billy Brooks is one of the best wide receivers in football.
Well, I think Billy Brooks was a good football player. I don't know whether he can continue to play football or not. I'm not a doctor. I don't have that answer.
Yeah, see, caller, we're in a real bind here because we really don't know the extent of his injury, and we're probably not going to know until if there is some litigation that's brought out in the testimony, or if he goes to some other team and does not pass a physical, and we hear that. So all we have to do is just sit and wait. I think we're all upset that Billy Brooks is not on the ball club because he is such a multi-talented person, and it would be even more tragic if Billy was hurt in such a way that he could never play again, regardless of who he might play for. But there's nothing we can do about it until we know more.
Billy says in the papers that reading that he's going to sue the Bengals.
Well, that's old news. We had that about a week ago here in Cincinnati. We'll have to see what happens. We don't know.
Well, that's what he had just in the other night's paper. That he said that they're going to. He said that he's going to sue the Bengals.
Well, he said if they waive him and they do not pay him, that he was going to consider a suit. Well, they waived him and they're not paying him, so now as they say, the ball is in his court. We'll have to wait and see what he does.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Thanks for your phone call, Ashland, Kentucky, on that line. Thank you for waiting. You're on Sports Talk with Forrest Gregg.
Yes, Bob. I'd like to wish Forrest Gregg a lot of luck with the Bengals this year, first of all, because I'm an old fan of his when he was with Green Bay. I think they had the greatest football team that ever was on the field.
Thank you.
And secondly, I'd like to know when the decision was made to cut Holden Holland.
Vernon
Holland.
That was a nickname that Vernon kind of acquired over the years. He doesn't mean for place kicks either.
Oh, I see. Well, I think we let Vernon go just before the Detroit game. And, as far as what Vernon did here in this training camp, Vernon played well for us. And I think that the whole situation here with Vernon was that we had Dave Lapham, who's a very talented football player and a very versatile football player, in a backup position, and we felt like that he could play either tackle, either guard, and center. And it's very comforting to have someone like that. We also had Blake Moore to come in and really surprise us all as a center. And he's an excellent backup for Blair Bush. Plus, we have Billy Glass, who is a real talent that has a lot of potential. That he's not there yet, but that's what we talked about a while ago, is being able to develop some of those young football players. So it was just more or less a situation where we had young football players that we feel like that next year or the year after that are going to be very talented, and we just didn't feel like we could let them go.
Thank you, Forrest. I sure hope you have the same success here that you had with Vince Lombardi and the Green Bay Packers.
I do, too. Thank you.
Thanks for your phone call. You're in a big ring because of that success. Line 1, you say. Thank you for waiting. You're on Sports Talk with Forrest Gregg.
Hello, Bob.
Hello.
First of all, I'd like to say I wish good luck to the Cincinnati Argonauts.
No, there's not a majority, so they're still the Bengals.
Oh, okay.
There's only 3, plus the coach, which is 4, and he was only there for 8 months. So now get on with it.
Okay. I have a comment and a favor to ask, please. First of all, I'd like to say that as a fan for a while, it's good to see, at least at the start of the year, that we can see that the coach has at least a little bit of authority over the football team, which is something I think we've missed for the past few years. And it looks like Paul Brown might be off the field this year, and I like that.
How did you picture Paul Brown on the field the last 3 years?
Well, I think even though he wasn't there in body, I think it was still pretty obvious that he was calling the shots not only from management but from a coach's viewpoint. At least that's the way it seemed to me. And this year it looks like Coach Gregg is at least going to be the coach of the team.
Yeah, well, just one comment. I've been very critical of Paul Brown as the general manager of the Bengals over the last 2 or 3 years, but there is something to be said for a man of his character and the aura that he brings to a football franchise. He doesn't have to be on the field. Everybody is looking for a guy like Paul Brown to rally around. And I think in Paul Brown moving from the front office to the front office from the football field after being there for 40 or 45 years, everybody suffers a certain amount of growing pains, and that's true with Paul Brown too. And all we can do is hope for the best.
Well, that's all well and good. It's still good for me I like to see an authoritative coach, and I think we got that.
We got one of those.
Also, I'd like to ask Coach Gregg a favor, please. I'd like to ask you if you'd please put Archie Griffin in the ball game and let him play 4 quarters and give him the ball 20 or 25 times and let him gain 1,500 yards this year.
You know, nothing in the world would please me any more than have Archie do that. And I think Archie is an excellent football player. And, as far as giving a guy the ball, we sort of do what we do best. And we do sometimes what the defense will allow us to do. And if we have to pass the ball a lot, we'll pass it. If we have to run it a lot, if they're stopping our halfback plays, then we go to our fullback. If they stop our fullback, we go to our halfback. So we really just can't designate that we'll hand a guy the ball X number of times. The game itself dictates who gets the ball and whether it's passing or running. But I think Archie is a good back. He's very, very dependable. There's certain things that he runs very, very well. He had about over a 5-yard per carry average last year. And I think that any back that can do that is quality. And Archie Griffin is certainly quality.
Okay. Well, the only thing I think is that if they drop Franco behind the line 2 times in a row, they give it to him again. And if we do that with Archie, I think we'd have one of those kind of backs for the Bengals.
Well, then you're talking about 4th down because you just gave it to Franco 2 times behind the line of scrimmage and then that 3rd time. Never mind. Thanks for your phone call.
Thank you.
Bye. Where do we go? Okay, thank you for waiting. You're on Sports Talk with Forrest Gregg.
Yeah, Bob, this is Jim from Enon.
Hi, Jim.
I'd like to ask Forrest about the status of Gary Burley. We were down at the game, Detroit's game, and looked all over the sidelines for him and couldn't find him. And just wondered how he was doing and when he's going to be playing again.
Okay, Gary was sitting in the stands. He said he didn't want to sit down there, and he might get run over. He wasn't moving too well. But Gary is making improvements. This week, for example, he started running for the first time, and he will be suited up on the sidelines Sunday, so you'll be able to see him there, but he won't play. I think and hope that Gary will be ready to play next week against Miami.
And he is counted on your 45-man roster.
Yes, he is. He's on the active roster, and we really need him. We think that we're really going one short on our defensive line right now because we only have 5.
Yeah.
And we really need Gary. And Gary is a fine football player. We hate that he has lost all this time because he didn't start in training camp right on time because of his health. Then when he did come back, he was just beginning to round into condition, and he hurt his ankle in the first preseason against Denver, and he's missed a complete month. It's a month Saturday since he was injured. So he's behind physically, and it's going to take him a while to catch up. And we just hope that we have him back so he can play the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Thanks for your phone call, Enan.
Hey, thank you. We'll be down there rooting you on Sunday.
Don't forget
right.
your Mighty Tiger rag.
Oh, for sure.
All right, bye-bye.
Right, bye.
Good evening. Thank you for waiting. You're on Sports Talk with Forrest Gregg.
Oh, yes, Forrest Gregg. How do you think the secondary will be this year on defense? I know the line looks real good, but as far as the secondary against, say, strong passing teams like Pittsburgh and Cleveland.
Well, I think our secondary has made a lot of improvement. I feel that these people that we have, our cornerbacks, Ken Riley and Lewis Breeden and Ray Griffin, we really have 3, and I think we're fortunate to be in that position because all 3 of them can play. You know, Ken Riley has had a great training camp. This guy is sharp. He's a sharp football player, and even though this is his 13th year, he still has a lot of football left in him. He has a lot of savvy. He takes care of himself, and he's really a hard worker. And
as far as the rookie, Bright, being a strong safety, don't you think that'll it's bound to take a little bit away from the secondary going against veteran receivers?
I don't really think so because we have 3 veterans back there with him. Dick Duran is the free safety, and Dick Duran sort of directs traffic back there. And with veterans on both sides of him, I think they'll give him support and they'll direct him in what to do.
What about the bench strength? What about depth? If one of the players like Lewis Breeden, his shoulder, I think, is still bothering him.
Okay.
I don't see much on the bench to come in and replace some of those starters.
We certainly have him. That's Ray Griffin. Ray Griffin's had an outstanding training camp. He's played both corners, and I think that if Ray has to come in and play, that we're going to be in good shape.
He can play
Caller, I want to bring up a point too. Your first question to Forrest Gregg was, even though the defensive line is looking good, what about the defensive backs? You answered your own question with that statement. If the defensive line pressures the quarterback, the defensive backs aren't going to have to do that much work.
Well, granted, they have to look good in the pass rush, but I think that some of these teams will pick up the blitz, and I just think that's going to leave the
Well, I still say though, the best defense is pressure on the quarterback.
The lines looked aggressive, and granted they've had sacks, but in preseason I don't know if that's justified because there's a lot of substitution on the team's offensive line that they've played in the 4 games. But they do hustle, and I just know that if they can put constant pressure when the regular season gets underway, these teams are going to be playing for real. And are they really going to be that successful rushing the quarterback? In other words, a lot of these...
Yeah, we got your other words. What you should do, my friend, is buy a ticket and go every Sunday and find out.
I got a season ticket.
All right, then you'll see every Sunday.
Okay.
Thanks for your phone call.
Yes, sir.
Bye. Good evening. Thank you for waiting. You're on Sports Talk with the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yes, I would like to ask you, Forrest Gregg, about the kicker. I'm not impressed with him. Looking at his record, he showed that out of 500 attempts, he only completed 320 something. That's not a very impressive record. I think the other rookie should have been in.
He
has suffered a lot from the kicker in the past.
What percentage would you say that a kicker had to make?
I think I don't know about this thing, but I was a soccer player. I think a good kicker should be able to complete more than 70%.
More than 70%.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I wish I had one that could do that.
Yeah, I don't think anybody in the league did that.
I think a lot of other people would like to have
it. What's his name?
I think about 50-something% is considered good.
Tony Fresh, I think he hardly misses any.
Well, it all depends on where you kick him from, I suppose.
Oh, he kicked one from 61 and 50 and 45 everywhere. But our kicker have been missing from 25, 35 and everywhere. And even in the vital games when it's only 3 seconds left and there are only, if you have your field goal, that's it.
Oh, that was last year.
Even the year before against Cleveland, we had the same thing.
Well, that guy's not here anymore.
Yeah, maybe that's why we have a new kicker.
Yeah, I'm happy about that we got rid of that. But he didn't look impressive on Sunday.
Well, he had 3 opportunities. One was a high snap. He made the other one. And then the last one he missed, I think, was from 47 yards. And another thing in his defense is he has been in New England and as a punter and really hasn't kicked that much. And He's had plenty of practice this week, however, and I know the guy. He's a dependable kicker, and when his leg rounds into condition, he'll be able to kick them from 50 yards.
Who will be the holder for Ian Sutter?
Mike Levenseller.
Mike Levenseller.
Yeah.
Okay, the other question is, what about that right side rush or pass running from the opposite team? I mean, against Tampa Bay in the second half, they were completing, every run from the right side. Who's supposed to cover that? Who was the linebacker or the safety? And we had the same problem against Houston last year. From right side, they're just going those short passes, completing without any problem.
Which are you talking about now? The sweep that Tampa ran, or the short passes that Houston completed last year?
Yes, both.
The sweep
As well as the short passes.
Okay. Let Forrest Gregg answer, please.
Okay, as far as I don't know what happened in Houston last year because I wasn't here. As far as the sweep that Tampa Bay ran against us, I think that was really a breakdown on our part defensively from the standpoint of not having the correct force with our secondary. That was part of it. Part of it was our end and linebacker getting hooked on that side. We were playing a lot of new people who are really not familiar with that, and they just got caught. But I can promise you this right now. I can assure you of this, that we have worked on that, and those problems will be corrected.
Okay, that's good.
Thanks for your phone call. I got to move on. We get a lot of people and not much time.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Thank you for waiting. You're on Sports Talk with Forrest Gregg.
Yes, good evening, gentlemen.
And ladies.
Two comments there. Mr. Gregg, hats off to you and your staff and sort of a take-charge situation with the Cincinnati Bengals this year. I think it's a team that really needs it. It's a sad commentary to see a lot of people have their favorites. That's quite natural in the field of entertainment, so to speak. But then again, you guys got a job to do. And it's not what you did for me yesterday, what you're doing for me today and tomorrow.
I couldn't agree with that more.
Please?
So I agree with that 100%.
One other comment. Bob Trumpy.
Here.
Okay. Your expertise in the commentary for the color on TV of the Bengals game is superb. Just one comment, sir. I think you were totally out of line with the Tampa Bay game, where you had commented about the overtime situation being immaterial, shouldn't have been played. Correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
There should not be overtime in preseason football games.
Right.
There is no reason to have overtime in preseason football games because that is keeping the kids after class, my friend. And they didn't do anything wrong. The best thing that could have happened in that football game in Tampa is that it ends in a 14-14 tie. You shake hands, and 2 weeks later, we'll play it to the death. When it doesn't mean anything, there is no reason to play it to some conclusion.
I'm saying right, but I disagree with you on two.
Well, you disagree with me because you got to buy the tickets to go see the games.
Right.
Well, I disagree with that too. You shouldn't have to buy exhibition tickets to go with the regular season. So that's something, excuse me, for you to work out with management. But I stand on my decision, and I do not like overtime for exhibition football games.
I'm only here to state my side, sir, and I appreciate what you're saying. The only 2 points I have to make to that, sir, is number one, you have men that have to go out there and get playing time to make the team. And with an overtime game, it creates that situation for them. It's to their benefit.
Actually, it works in the reverse. You have Forrest Gregg, who is a very competitive person, who is a very proud person, who is proud of his football team, in overtime, making a last-ditch effort to win the football game. And the opposite was, the same thing was true of John McKay. He chanced injuring his regulars, the guys who were going to play 16 football games and hopefully more, to win one lousy exhibition game in overtime. He put in the first offensive line, and the Bengals put in their first linebackers. And if they had one of them blown out their knee or just snapped a hamstring from sitting on the bench for 2.5 quarters and then all of a sudden coming in there to save the game, he would have been hitting himself with a hammer for the rest of the year. If it had come down to that one player meaning the difference between a successful season and a losing season. And I don't think coaches should be put in that situation because they're competitive and they're proud and they're going to put their starters in there to try to win the game. I don't think that's right. That's too much. That's a squirrel cage you don't want a coach to get in. And what he's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't. So don't give him the choice.
Okay, one other point, Trump, and I'll let you move on.
Please do.
The only other point I had to make with the overtime situation of the Tampa Bay game, I think right now for the Cincinnati Bengals, it means everything in the world to them to win. If they, if it's a draw, I think it's not a negative, but it's definitely not a positive. Therefore, it's my contention, even in preseason, for a team like the Bengals, and their past track record shows it, they need to win. Preseason or for real, they got to win.
Okay, you've stated your opinion.
Anytime, sir.
Obviously, I disagree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. One more call, and then Forrest Gregg's got to go. Thank you for waiting. You're on Sports Talk with the head coach of the Bengals.
Yeah, this is Greg Phillippe from Florence, Kentucky. How you doing tonight?
Fine, Greg.
Mr. Gregg, I got a couple questions for you. I just spent a weekend up in Cleveland with my brother-in-laws, and they have some distinct opinions, unfortunately. And I was just wondering, can you sense a difference in football teams as far as your attitude for coaching, which I greatly admire, between what you had in Cleveland and the Bengals right now from down here?
Now, from what standpoint? You talking about the attitude of the players?
Well, attitude of the players, and also how it relates to the community themselves. The people, the fans who are watching and waiting to see a championship team.
Well, I think that both cities are very supportive of their football teams. I know when I was in Cleveland, everybody talked football during the season. It's the same way here. As far as the teams themselves, there's not a lot of similarity there. I think that Cleveland's football team is a little more experienced than ours at this point. I think that our football team is younger, and I think it's coming. I think it's on the move.
Okay.
Quickly.
Bob has mentioned a point a couple times in the show, which I agree with, and that is the fact of having if you have some good wide receivers like we do and a good passing attack, to get some excitement, throw the bomb every once in a while, which we haven't seen in the last couple of years. What is your attitude on that?
Tight end's always open. That's the attitude to have.
Tight end is
always open.
Very good. Bob, one.
Oh, wait a minute. I have a question along those lines for Forrest. Any chance of the Bengals going to the shotgun offense?
Well,
I don't want to.
We have the shotgun offense in our terminology in our playbook. There has been times during the training camp that we have worked on it, and we've taken a look at it. And I would say it would depend on the situation and really what we're trying to do, and maybe the right place and the right time hasn't come yet. But yeah, I think the shotgun is effective if, number one, if you can protect the quarterback. Number two, if you can develop some type of running game off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And because if you don't, then every time you line up back there, those defensive linemen can zero in on you. And even though you may have more of a split second to read defenses, the receivers still have to, takes them so much time to get downfield.
That's correct.
So it has its pluses and minuses. I don't like to use it as wouldn't like to use it as a steady diet, as Dallas does, but that's Dallas's philosophy. That's not mine.
Okay, listen, Forrest, I got to hang up on you, caller. We only got about 40 seconds left, and I want to say this. You came to town in a tough situation. I think this city wants the Cincinnati Bengals to win so bad. And even though some of the decisions that were made by you, a lot of people in Cincinnati didn't agree with, but I think the team looks good, their attitude is good, and they're working hard, and you deserve that credit. And the best of luck to you in 1980 and your staff.
Thank you very much, Bob. And we have enjoyed being here and visiting here with you and the people. And we really like to ask for their support. And I can tell them one thing right now. that this football team will give effort. And that's one thing that I can promise you that they'll see on Sunday and every other Sunday they come down there.